Trance Rock Warehouse, and we have a special episode today. We're talking AOR, the life and death of AOR. And me, I'm taking a back seat to this one because this topic came up from our good friend Ernesto. Everyone knows him by now. And I'm going to hand it over to him to take over. I'll be here for support and I'll chime in every now and then, but we're just trying this and see how it goes. So Ernesto, welcome to the show. Welcome everybody else. You can see Peter Jones. You can see Rand Kelly on the Contrarians. They're there all the time. You can see Byron on my channel. Come on, everyone should know Byron. And of course, Ernesto, you can see
on Instagram
and on my channel.
Right.
All right, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, so the whole idea was we wanted to talk about AOR. And I think the whole thing about AOR is that when I was growing up, we had this music, and it's funny because AOR has kind of like three titles. I didn't know this. We got album-oriented rock.
That's where it began.
Right.
Right.
But when I was looking at the research and everything, I was wondering, well, wait a minute, what is all that? There's all this, there's different names for it. Then they have adult-oriented rock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that came around later on. And so basically is when I was growing up, I was listening to all this rock music, and it was something that was new to me because, you know, I grew up with three brothers that listened to rock music, and I was getting all this influence from them, but I was getting influenced by music, and that was from the radio. Mm-hmm. Radio was king back then. That was the most important. And growing up, that's all we did. We either listened to the radio, we played records or tapes and stuff like that. And it was that music, that era that just really sunk into me as a teenager. And all these groups, amazing groups, you know, and I just want to mention really quick, I want to mention two.
Go ahead.
Really quick. And so I want to mention 707.
Oh my God, he has to throw up the damn 8-track. Of course he does. What am I thinking?
He's the 8-track king.
I love this album.
That's what I love about Ernesto. Always about the 8 tracks. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to quick mention, because this isn't about me. This is more about you guys. But I just want to quick mention this album.
I don't know about that.
Well, 707 is such a great album. I think anybody who collects vinyl or tapes or whatever should have this album. It's a great album. It's got that song that everybody loved and heard back then, was I Could Be Good For You. It's such a famous song that they used to play it on the radio so much, and it got hooked. And that's one of the albums that's most memorable to me. And then I have Manfred Mann.
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah,
and
that was
here's
big.
Another album. This is another album that got stuck to my head because of Blinded by the Light. It's just a great song. I just fell in love with it. And even though they played it to death on the radio, and they still do sometimes, I love this album. But I also love this band. I think they're really good. Nobody really talks about them that much. Really talented people in here. And that to me is, those two albums to me are the most important growing up. There was other ones, but those were the ones that I heard on the radio as much. And they had a lot of influence on me and growing up listening to music.
And I want to say, Ernesto, you're totally right. Because if you listen to like what they play now on classic rock radio, right, I still check into that just to see what's going on. And that Manfred Mann is never that. It's like one of those staples back in the day, but now, you know, I want to thank Clear Channel for that, but that's one of those songs or one of those.
That's the only one they'll play though.
Right.
I don't hear that around here. I don't know.
I do,
guys.
I do here in Reading sometimes. So I put it on the radio. I can.
Not anymore. It's gone. It's
sad. I know. You know.
Well, what they've been doing is dumbing down the audience over time, over 40 years. I'm planning to I'll get into that later.
Well, whatever. I mean, I want to keep this loose, and it's just a general conversation. So anybody just wants to say something, jump in and discuss, because this whole thing about everything being regimented and going around, let's just have a conversation about it.
Well,
That's what
I
want.
was gonna say, oh, I'm sorry, Pete.
if I can jump in for a second, I think
Yeah.
it's important, and I always come at things from, if we have a specific topic, is to what came before it and why it was important and why the subject we're talking about is what it is. Because growing up, those of us who are all of a certain age, when all we had was AM radio, and I don't want to say all because I don't want to minimize that. It was such an important element. All the trips in our cars, all the family things, everything, vacations, you had a radio on.
Right. Mhm.
Right.
And the seminal moment is when I got my own Panasonic flip radio, twist radio, when I think I was 8 or 9. And then I had a radio in my bedroom and I could listen anytime I want. And the point was, is that at that point, radio was about playing singles, songs that were released for the intention of specifically being played on the radio.
Mhm.
Now, there were a lot that didn't make it due to politics and marketing and a lot of other things, but a lot of stuff did. And the variety and the breadth of music that was out there was pretty substantial. But then it started to get kind of pigeonholed. And the advent and the beauty of FM AOR, adult-oriented radio, was that they could take a different stance. They could go a little bit differently. They could say, we've got these albums that we're looking at, artists who have more than just maybe a song or even a couple songs, where they would dig deep into catalogs, play deeper tracks. They would research things. And I remember for me specifically, when I moved to Chicago in 72, that they had multiple rock radio stations, but one of the ones that always stood out while the rock ones were kind of feeding on themselves, we had the WLUP, of course, that's the station that sponsored Disco Demolition. We had WMET, which was a combat, but that was pretty classic rock for what we knew at the time, Stones and Aerosmith and things like that. But we had a channel, WXRT 93 FM.
WXRT, yeah.
WXRT, and they were Chicago's fine rock. And I'll hold off on my albums here for a minute, but the point is that we now had an alternative. You still had AM. You could go to FM for the local, more corporate stations, but now you had another outlet that was introducing you to things that you weren't hearing yet because they hadn't become popular enough yet to get lumped in with the corporate stuff. So I think that's the evolution that we're talking about here. And we're looking at that middle section and how it went from the AM singles into a big album orientated way of thinking and presentation. And then what happened afterwards? Did it all just go away and go back to corporate? And that element kind of got lost. So I don't know if you subscribe to that historic analysis of that, but that's how I see it as far as this conversation is going.
Well, let's throw it over to, I'm going to moderate, for God's sakes. Ernesto, what do you think about, comment on what Peter had to say for
I
crying.
think it's true. I think everything he says is true. I mean, growing up, we had, all this great music that they don't have anymore. You don't have that. I can't listen to the radio anymore.
I can't either.
Yeah, you can.
I'm the
Because
same way.
It just has no soul in it. It just doesn't feel like, it doesn't get me. It doesn't, I don't know.
Well, think about it back in the day.
Right.
Everything was regional. Back in the day, you would have regional hits, like in the 60s. There was a band in the Columbus area called the Dantes that had a regional hit, but everything was all segmented to some degree. But now everything's homogenized and everybody's playing the same thing. Like you mentioned, Manfred Mann, even though Rand lives in another dimension, I don't hear Manfred Mann Earth Band anymore around here.
Right.
But back in the day, you would hear that all the time.
Right.
There was a lot more, what's the word I want to, I don't want to,
Diversity.
yes. Now you don't have that. It's just like, well, let's play, like, let's look at classic rock radio. Well, we'll still play Pearl Jam, and we may play Stone Temple Pilots, and well, let's throw in some Cinderella and Poison. That's what they're
We're going
playing.
to play the
again.
same 3 GNR songs
Over and-
until you just want to puke.
There's
Exactly.
probably, I'm gonna go out on a ledge. They probably play 25 or 30 songs, and that's it.
Well, you know, if my local station plays a Yes song, what do you guys think it's going to be? Just
They
think
don't
about
even
it.
Roundabout.
play Yes here anymore.
Roundabout.
The owner of a lonely heart.
Or of a lonely heart or
Ernesto
roundabout.
is right.
They
It's
never
the
even
only
play
one
that
they'll
here
play.
anymore.
The only one they'll play here in town, where I live
Yeah.
in Redding, California, is
Yeah.
Owner of a Lonely Heart. They don't touch anything else, and they used
Because
to. I mean,
that
I
was
used to
the
hear
They don't
King
touch
Crimson,
that either now. Not
21st
here.
because that was the
Century
most
Kid Went
commercial song they had.
Right.
You know?
They went #1.
I'm going to
and the
say
only
that
one
Owner of a
number
Lonely
one.
Heart, you
It
can look
ruined
on
their
my
career.
channel. You can look on my channel right now. I just did a short. And it's gotten a lot of, that is the only Yes song that people care about now.
Right.
Don't shoot the messenger, but of all
No,
the
I'm
Yes
just saying-
thing, I'm just saying.
It's
I'm just
because it
saying
had
that-
a video with it, Grant.
Well, it's catchy.
What
Well, I'm not
saying, guys,
dismissing that, but it had a video.
Yeah.
what
That
I'm
helped.
trying to say, guys, is that FM today is
Mhm.
only playing less and less of the songs from the same bands. You're getting, like when they play Bob Seger, for instance, you might get 4 songs.
They don't even play Bob
Tom
Seger
Petty.
anymore.
You get 4 or 5 songs. Like
Right.
I said, with Yes, you get 1 song. Genesis, you're going to hear
That's
I
all.
Can't Dance.
Or that's
That's
all.
all. Stuff
Right.
like, yeah, that's all more than I Can't Dance. Exactly. So it's the most, it's coming down, it's gotten down to what they call the lowest common denominator with the
Right.
singles that are on FM. And when I was 15, there was no FM. Everything was AM. And we were listening to Inagata by Iron Butterfly, the long version. I mean, they
Yeah,
were
but-
playing everything in Eureka.
Yeah.
But
But
back
yeah,
then,
back
when it was
then,
all on
yeah.
AM, there were really no rules. They would just play whatever.
I know, and they played acid rock back then, and today you don't hear it. None of
But
on
here's-
the nostalgia stations that you find on regular radio.
Yeah.
Nobody will touch acid rock. They won't touch it.
AM was king at that time. AM was king.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's also not forget that there's an important distinction between how things were started and where they turned into, because the
Yeah.
FM philosophy was just like KRP in Cincinnati. It was
Very well.
DJ driven,
Yeah,
not corporate.
Good
driven.
point.
right.
Good
Right.
point.
It was
Let's
the
try
That
Taste
movie,
and
and
the
you could
that
call
movie
in and
FM,
request
have you
songs.
seen the movie FM? The Steely Dan song FM, No Static at All?
Mhm.
right.
That movie FM is amazing because it really is the template for WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, that's a known
But it's
fact.
It's a great movie where it shows you the demolition of
Right.
individuality. It's like amazing.
Something as simple as the DJ needs a pee break. I'm going to play something longer. I'm going to put it on so I've got time to go and do my business.
Hey, that reminds me, I requested Yes Awaken on AM radio in Eureka, California, and the guy said, "Thank you so much. I needed to go out and have a cigarette." This is a
There you go.
15-minute
There you
song.
go. Let's throw it over to Byron to get his opinion on all this. Because or Brian, do you want me to call
Yeah,
you
whatever.
Brian or Byron?
You guys have
Right.
talked about a lot. I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate here and
Go
say,
ahead. I want to hear it.
and
Excellent.
say, who cares? None of us listen to the radio anymore.
Yeah, but I still do because
And
I
I
like the
wouldn't even
morning.
if they played good music. I wouldn't. I got so much other stuff. I listen to you guys to tell me what I should check out.
Oh
No,
well,
but
then you're
Brian-
doomed if you're listening to us.
Brian, I think the point is when you were younger, in your younger self, what did you listen to? That's
Yeah,
the point.
exactly.
Now, well, I just wanted to throw that out
Right.
because
I
I thought I'd
understand.
kind of come at it from a different angle, but I missed out on early FM where they would play just anything they wanted.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I
we're
was
probably most of
22
us are
when
the
that
same.
happened.
I'm 58, so
Right.
Yeah,
I
you're
really
old-
didn't start
old as
listening
shit.
to yeah, I didn't
I'm
really listen to
70.
FM until about 77.
Mhm.
And by then it was already changing,
Yeah,
but it's still pretty good. And that's, you either listen to that to discover new music, or you borrowed friends' albums or whatever, or you bought something. That was the only way you could discover anything. So, and I was like 13, 14, 15.
Mhm.
That's where all this music's new to you at this point in your life.
Right.
Everything.
You know,
you're
the first
clean
time I
slate.
Everything's
heard,
new. Everything's new
Right.
and shiny, you know?
the
But,
first time I heard Pink Floyd Echoes was on FM radio.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
But-
that's interesting because I just want to mention I haven't heard Pink Floyd Echoes being played on classic rock radio in a long time. And that was one of the
Never.
no, seriously, that was one of the staples of Pink Floyd. You hear all those wall tracks all the time. But they used to play Echoes quite a bit, and I haven't heard it in years on
don't know that I've ever-
American radio.
And the
Well-
first time I heard Scatterbrain by Jeff Beck was on FM radio in Sacramento, California in 1973.
Well,
Wow.
let me suggest this. And the reason I brought up XRT is because it played a critical role.
Mhm.
And that role carried over. I spent 2 summers in Moreland Hills, Ohio, my last 2 years of college. And I was fortunate enough to have access to WMMS and,
Yeah.
the mighty buzzard. And
Mhm.
and these tie into each other because, and you had mentioned 1977. And what I did for this specifically, if I can take a moment, is I picked some albums that these are all from 1977. And this was just a good spot for me. And all of these were first presented to me in long form discovery.
Right.
WXRT on Saturday night used to do the full album, side 1, side 2.
Good point. I remember back
That's where I
in the
first
day.
heard that.
Yeah.
It's the first time I heard that.
Look at you.
First time I heard this.
Yeah.
But they used to do that in Central Ohio too. They would do like Saturday or Friday nights. They would choose an album and play the whole thing. And that's when all these people would get their cassette players all
That's
geared
right.
up so they could record the whole record.
First time I heard iRobot.
Right.
What a great record that is.
First time I
Holy
heard
shit.
all of this.
Yeah.
Look at
And
his props.
first time I heard this entire album.
Oh yeah.
That was a staple back in the day.
Yeah.
That
Now,
record.
I
Oh
saved
my
this
God.
one for last
these were-
because this really proves our point.
Go ahead.
Oh,
When they
yeah.
played all of this.
Yep.
And here's what had happened over time.
Mhm.
At first, when you discovered this record, feels like the first time, Cold as Ice, Long, Long Way from Home. But you also knew Woman O' Woman and Head Knocker and War of the
Mhm.
World. And you knew all of these tracks. And little by little, they all got funneled down to the one they wanted to force feed you with.
Down to the
I
two.
was waiting
Down to the
for a
2.
girl
Maybe 3.
like-
Maybe 3.
Maybe
on that
3.
one.
Feel Long, Long Way from
Mm,
Home.
right.
Feels like the first time and Cold as Ice.
Okay.
Star Rider. If you hear Star Rider, you
No.
almost crash your car.
You
My
used
favorite
to hear
song.
it. You used to hear it, but not
You
anymore.
did
But
used
I'm
to
going
hear
to
it.
give you that. You hear those 3. You hear those 3.
And
But now
that
you
is
hear it, I wanna
exactly
know
what,
what love
I'm
is.
talking about. How it started as a full form. And this is how you got introduced to those deep cuts. You never heard Man in the Wilderness or Castle Walls ever again on FM radio
Right.
outside of playing the full album,
Yeah.
which is a
I
travesty.
remember when they played those. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
And they used to
that's
play.
what,
They used to
and we
play
could
the
do this
title
about
song.
almost every decade, and I could have picked hundreds.
Yeah,
of
they would play the
albums.
Grand Illusion all the time.
Yeah.
And this
Miss America.
Then
I-
it's
yes.
Miss
Miss America.
Yourself and
It's
Come
been
Sail Away.
several years since I've heard the Grand Illusion be played.
Yeah.
But they used to play it all the time.
So
There was
now
so
everything is-
much more
Everything
selection.
is fooling yourself and Come Sail Away.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
And here's
say
another
here
thing.
they play oh crap. They play
Babe,
Blue Collar Man. They
yeah,
Renegade.
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 Too much
They-
time on my hands.
Too much
Oh
Yeah.
time
yeah,
on my
that-
hands.
that
Those
gets a lot
three.
up there.
Those three.
What about Babe? Don't they play that a lot?
No,
Oh, yeah,
no.
yeah.
Well, they haven't played Babe in years.
Really?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
I
But
don't
here's
know.
the
I don't
thing.
listen to the radio.
It was huge in
Well, you just
79.
come to me. I'll tell you what they play.
No, but here's the thing. The good thing about radio back then was this was one of the best. There was no interruptions. They would play
Yeah.
the song complete.
Right.
And that's important.
Well, I will say this. They do, after the morning show here in Columbus, they do an hour's worth of music after the morning show uninterrupted.
Right. But that's rare.
And then just to round out my discussion quick is that when I was those summers in Ohio, I remember clear as day when I'd gone there in 83, one night late, they, right before its release date, played Holy Diver straight through. I heard the whole
Wow.
album.
Oh, no,
Ford-
that couldn't have happened.
It did. WMMS played Holy Diver straight through.
Well, Peter, I want to tell you
I bought
the
it
one
the day
thing.
it came out.
WMMS that you remember is just a shadow of what they were.
It was a
I mean,
legacy.
everything's all homogenized now, you know.
Right. But it played concerts every Saturday night. You'd get some recorded show from somewhere that's never been released.
Well, like King Biscuit,
yeah.
or what was the other one that used to do concerts, gentlemen?
The radio.
Stars in concert.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Of course, who's playing concerts like that anymore? Think about this. When all this was going on, this is when we thought of rock bands were almost like gods. These people, these musicians, we still look at it that way. The kids nowadays don't look at it like that. You know, the gods now are the gaming systems, the rap artists.
Right.
But back then, you know, that's who we had to look forward to. Those days are gone. But man, when I was a kid, I remember when they did a Cheap Trick show from 1980. I think it was like Super Groups in Concert, Byron. But I remember setting up the tape deck, recording it so I still have that cassette. And every now and
Wow.
then I still play it. But it was a big deal. We looked at these artists like they were something. It was an event.
Well, they
Yeah.
also simulcasted a lot of shows.
Utopia,
Many that I was at, that I was able to have somebody at home record it. So I had a great on-air FM broadcast of the concert I just went to.
it was Utopia did an FM broadcast for Halloween. It must have been, I think it was 1980, Halloween of 1980. They simulcast the concert everywhere.
I've got a Cheap Trick from 79 from the International Amphitheater in Chicago that is
Yep.
just one of my absolute prized live recordings in my whole
So
catalog.
just one of those things, you know?
You know,
And
funny
you
you
can't
bring up
get-
Utopia.
Yeah.
They don't get any radio airplay.
I don't
Oh,
think-
well,
I
no,
don't think
not
I've ever heard
since-
of Utopia on the radio.
Well,
Nope.
they used to play a lot from Adventures in Utopia.
Yeah, they.
Yeah.
And
stopped
that was
being
the
a
one they
prog band
played
with that
everything
album.
off because that was much more commercially, you know, but
Yeah,
that's
that
been
was
years.
the album where they dumped all the prog. They did no more prog.
Well, kind of.
Tiny.
Caravan got a
There's a
little bit
tiny
prog.
bit in there.
There's a
Yeah.
tiny bit of problem.
I like that record, but my favorite.
We'll
are
discuss
the
Utopia
first
more in
three.
the future here.
There will be Utopia discussion. Check out Grant's Rock Warehouse in the future, where
Here's
there
a-
will
here's-
be a
Cool.
Utopia discussion.
I want to be on it.
Here's a question for Ran. Where you live in Sacramento, right?
No, I live in Redding, California.
Okay,
You
Redding,
guys-
California.
You guys
many
keep going. I'll be
Redneck
right back.
capital of the world, right here.
Okay, how many FM stations are still around? Real good ones.
We have an all metal station, and we have a classic FM station, and we have a whole crap load of easy listening Christian and country And the metal station I can't listen to because I hate every band they ever play. I can't stand them. They're all growling vocals usually.
Right.
I can't listen to that crap.
Do
No.
they still do that stuff still? I thought that was
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of passe. I mean, Opeth
no.
got rid of it, so I can't imagine anybody else would be doing it.
They play a lot of Tool, and I don't like Tool.
Now, I know someone will bring it up and we'll just open Pandora's box here. And some are going to suggest, well, you guys, they've fixed all that.
Right.
They've got Sirius XM. You can custom and pick and choose everything you want and the styles and genres you like. I recently took a trip here from where I live in North Dakota to see my family in Chicago. It's a little over 10 hours straight through. And I chose to stay on the 70s on 7 station. And after about 5-6 hours, they start repeating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't tell me this is just endless deep cuts and throwbacks, because theirs just as formulated. They may have a wider spread because of listening habits, but they're going to start repeating the same stuff. And then I can come in the next day around the same time and, I've actually had this happen. I've turned the radio off to a
It's the s-
specific song,
Yep.
come in the next day at a different time and the same song starts playing.
Yep,
Yeah.
I've done
I
that
like-
even on FM rock
Look,
radio. Same
I
thing.
have the
What the
greatest
hell?
story.
Tune in at
I
a
have the-
certain time, it'll be the same song.
Well, I put on Sirius for deep tracks just to see if they'll play a prog song, because I know for a fact that they got tons of prog. Because back in 2004, when I first got my Dish Network, they were doing a Sirius XM. It wasn't even Sirius XM back then; it was just Sirius. They were doing a Sirius week of progressive rock on one channel just to test it, see if anybody liked it. And I went crazy over that, watching that for a whole week. And then I contacted them and stuff. And I said, "Are you guys going to start a prog channel?" And the lady goes, "No, there wasn't enough feedback. You're the only one that's called." I
And
went,
that
"What?"
genre is.
Did you tell him you were Rand Kelly?
I
when you
did.
talked
I
to
said,
him?
"I'm Rand Kelly."
Okay,
Damn it.
good. because
noticeably absent? in
I
the
thought maybe
XM.
that would give you more pull.
But they have
Yeah.
so much. They have so much. I mean, I heard Gentle Giant, Gong. I mean, just so many bands that I love. National Health. There was a group called Clearwater that I liked a lot. I think they were called Clearwater. Just
Rand was
amazing.
walking on
Wasn't it
air
And
for
they
Clear
that
Light?
never
week.
play that stuff. Huh?
You were
mean Clear
walking
Light
on air for
Symphony?
that week.
No, they were called Clear Sky. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the amazing stuff. I mean, they had some really rare prog, and I mean, and now every time I get in the car and when I go, I'm going to put on, because my wife's got Sirius, and so I put on deep tracks to see if there's going to be a prog song, and there isn't.
Well,
Yeah.
not
Wait a
on
while.
deep tracks. They're not going to play that.
I don't
They
even
don't
know who
play
runs those stations. I
Where
don't
else
know.
are you going to find it? They don't even have it in.
They don't
have
care
Country
about
Brown
that.
Radio. They have
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen radio. They have Grateful Dead radio. They have all these channels, but no prog.
The
Yeah.
stations that I have programmed on my XM across the first 6 are classical. It's all symphonic classical.
Nice.
Second is real jazz. I can get McCoy Tyner. I can
Yeah.
go through that, and they hardly ever repeat anything there. I
Yeah.
have the Sinatra channel. I have the Elvis channel. You're getting to where I'm
Oh,
going
Lord.
here.
Well, I
And-
like the Beatles channel. I'll listen to that.
No, I hate that.
No,
I've got the Penthouse channel, the
You're a
Sex Talk
contrarian.
channel, the no, I
They
don't.
have. You're just
Dr.
kidding.
Ruth.
Yacht Rock. I like Yacht Rock
Howard-
channel.
Howard Stern.
I got
Brian has
tired
a-
of Howard Stern.
Yeah, he's a
Byron
dick.
has a question. I think Byron was going to say something.
I had a
Byron?
story.
Go ahead, give us a story.
So I had this story about how they only play certain songs by certain bands. Okay, so what's the song that Rush gets played all the time?
Tom
Tom
Sawyer.
Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
Tom
Okay,
Sawyer.
great.
That's
So-
one. They play Free
Used to
Will
be
here.
closer
They
to the
play
heart.
Well,
Spirit of the
yeah,
Radio.
but Tom
Tom Sawyer.
Number
So-
one.
Tom
Number
Sawyer.
one.
Spirit of Radio.
I was just starting to date my wife. This was 10 years ago. Or
Look
whatever.
at you.
She's a lot younger than me, so she's
Oh,
12 years younger. So she's
Oh.
46.
oh.
Anyway, So,
What they call that, cradle robbing?
so,
Oh, now.
Look at you,
so
Byron.
she's from a different, generation. And I was like talking about music, and we were driving around, and I was like, well, have you heard of Rush? She goes, no, she's never heard of Rush. I said, come on, you've heard Tom Sawyer. And she's like, no, I don't think I have. And I'm like, you cannot turn on the radio and not hear Tom Sawyer. And she's like,
Right.
oh, that's a bunch of baloney. So I only have like 3 channels programmed in my car because there aren't that many to choose from. So we're listening to one channel. So I hit the button to the next channel, and there's Tom Sawyer.
And then what happened? Then what happened? Did she
She couldn't
recognize
believe
it?
I don't
Did you
think she
tell her
did.
you were a wizard or anything like that?
Well, she knew that already.
Oh,
But
you
gotta
must
love
be a
that
wizard.
first
You got some of
synthesizer,
that
though.
young,
But it just proved my point.
right?
They play the same shit over and over and over.
Well,
I
and
don't get
all it's
tired.
I don't
done,
even
no.
listen to the radio now.
all it's really done is, as Rand said, it dumbs down the audience. It alienates anybody who even they had a shot in hell of getting. There you go, Grant.
You'll never hear any of this.
That's right.
Nope.
Dude,
Never hear
And
stars.
never heard them.
all
before.
you alienate a lot of your audience because you have bludgeoned them to death in a slow Chinese drip of repetition that will
Yeah.
just make you close to madness.
Yeah.
Look, in bars with bands and things that I've played with,
Look at
oh
that.
my God, there's like a list now
You'll never
Of-
hear that.
of please don't.
I've
ever
never
play
heard
this
that
song again.
ever on
Yeah.
radio or anything. No.
Yeah.
You know what? We got.
you wanna kill
I
yourself.
was in a band one time, and we were playing like rock and country rock, and somebody yelled, "Freebird!" And you know what the drummer said? He said, "I'd rather been on the plane."
Oh man.
Oh,
Yikes.
ouch.
That is
Yikes.
that's a guy. that
They
doesn't
still
like
play
that
a lot of
song.
Freebird here. They play a
Yeah.
We
lot
turned
of
around and
different
looked at him like, "Are
Freebird.
you crazy?"
Yeah, but it's Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Freebird.
Freebird.
No, we play
Give me two
another
steps.
one.
I
Give me
hear
two
Call Me
steps.
the
Another one that
Breeze.
gets
the
played
Long
a lot,
Distance,
too.
Give Me
Steps.
Three
We play
Steps.
that.
Give me 3 steps.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
even more they
Oh,
play.
Ooh,
what's,
that
what's your
smell.
name?
Yep,
the
they
smell.
play
Your
that.
name?
What's your name, little Susie?
That smell, they play that. My God, all we
Yeah.
do here in Central Ohio is play Leonard Skinner.
Bunch of rednecks.
Uh,
Allman Brothers. You
I
hear
keep
Ramblin'
thinking,
Man?
I keep thinking "Son of a Poor Man" by REO, but that's not it.
REO, right?
No,
How
they
many-
don't play
How many
that.
Allman Brothers songs do they play on your radio besides Ramblin' Man?
I don't think they play anything anymore.
Was
Like,
REO big on the coasts before
They were playing
got
the whipping
real
Oh, they're
post.
huge out here.
They were-
REO?
I
Yeah,
hear
Bolton,
you.
Illinois,
High
they were
Infidelity,
mammoth.
though.
What's that big hit that they had on Infidelity?
Keep on loving you.
Keep on loving
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
And
I
then
didn't know
love
they
that
had
another
a
record.
one,
big before
I
that.
love
that other
that
one that
record.
you keep a rolling or you keep something
That's
like that.
on-
Both the
You
changes.
can
Oh,
tune a
geez.
piano,
Oh my
but you
God,
can't
they
tune a
just play
fish.
that to death. Like Pete said, they
Yeah.
bludgeon you with it every single
do.
day. It's like, you know, we
I
got a
love
big
that song.
request coming up from Bob Seger, and it's da 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 da.
You know what? That
Are you
album was
kidding
so
me?
big. That album was huge.
REO or Bob Seger?
No, the High Infidelity.
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I,
Yeah.
but
Huge.
That's a great
I like
album.
the
I love
first
that
one.
record.
I think the
I
first
love it.
one's the best one.
No.
I prefer 9 Lives from that era myself.
Well, let me
No.
tell you
High
why. I think the
Infidelity
first
is
one the best one.
Wonderful.
9
I like
Lives
the
was the
singer.
last rock record they did.
I
But
know, but
High
I like the
Infidelity is
singer.
awesome.
I like the singer Terry Luttrell
No.
because he ends up in Starcastle, and I love.
Starcastle.
Yeah, but he doesn't sound anything like he
I
did
know he
on
doesn't.
REO than he did.
We're-
So who
we're-
cares?
We're friends on Facebook, and I
Of
told
course
him
you're
that. I go,
friends
"You
with
don't sound
Terry on
anything like
Facebook.
you do on
So let me
Starcastle."
ask this. So what is the larger impact of what radio is doing to the record industry as a whole and us as consumers buying or not buying albums?
Before the
because we've
internet or after?
As the decline of AOR starts to dissipate and it becomes more
Yeah.
corporate again, is there not a correlation to the fact that we are now living in a streaming song by song by song world
Yeah.
only? Albums mean nothing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Right.
the new generation they have no clue about albums. They just have their playlists and they listen to them. And
Well, yeah, they
There's-
just pick up their phone and they can see everything on their phone. That's the way I
Yeah.
have 2 teenagers and they do that. And
But
Yeah.
even if they have a
phone.
single or a song that they like, they don't go research the album that it came from.
no,
They
They don't
listen to
care.
the one song and they go, I don't like
Yeah.
the album. I just like the one song.
yeah, it's like if they heard Yes, we go back to that song on a Lonely Heart, and
Right.
you played it close to the edge, they'd look at you like you lost your mind.
Right.
Right.
Well,
That can't
my kids would
be the
look
same
at
thing.
you. My kids, if you played either one, would look at you if you like you lost your mind.
What do they
Doesn't
look like?
matter.
Yeah, but do you remember the time that
Okay.
you could go to the record store and buy the single because you heard
Yeah.
it on the radio and you
Let me
loved
tell
it?
you this. I was out in Seattle with my son, and the band The Smiths
Mm.
are his favorite band. But I'm not sure if that's such the case now, because we were talking and he is into a lot of rap for some reason. He wasn't when he was here, but somehow he's been corrupted out in Seattle. And so he thinks Drake is great. He thinks Kanye is brilliant. Now, don't judge him on his political views or things like that. But as a musician and a rap artist, hip hop artist, he thinks his stuff's brilliant. Okay.
Well, he chose King Crimson 21st Century Schizoid Man to sample. So he's aware.
That doesn't, well,
stuff.
yeah, Kanye is aware of a lot of things,
Yeah.
but
Plus,
he
he's recorded
told
with Paul
me, I
McCartney.
said, well, Griffin, I know you like a lot of this music. You like a lot of rap. Have you ever listened to any of the artists where it blossomed from?
Blondie.
Run DMC, things like that. He's going, why? He said, we don't listen to anything. We only want new stuff.
Right.
We don't care about what came before. So his stance on everything's completely changed. He only cares about what is current. If it's too old, toss it to a side. Where we're all sitting here, you know, we still long for all that old stuff, you know. It's just everything has changed. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
well,
do
to
you-
me, that sounds like self-inflicted amnesia to me. I don't
Yeah,
think
but
Rand,
makes that-
this is
what makes
talk to
that
my
mean-
daughter, talk to any of these young people. They don't care. Ernesto, you've got teenagers. What's
Right.
your throw it out
Well,
there.
I'm telling you, the music, they'll be into one song and then maybe a couple of weeks after they'll be into another. It doesn't really stick to you. Like it doesn't get you in the heart. Like it
Right.
doesn't get you in, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't stick to you. It's
yeah,
not,
it's like products. It's like eating
Well,
a bowl of cereal every day.
yeah,
Well, you're not buying it either. You're not
right.
physically going out and buying it. Now you have it.
That changed, I think. Okay, now you're hitting it on the head. Because
Napster
back in the
stuff
day when you
started it.
didn't have instant access, you know, you may
Didn't
read
what?
something in Rolling Stone, you may hear something that, or Circus or Cream may say, hey, Styx is working on a new album. It'll be out in March.
Yeah.
Well, that gave you something to look forward to.
Yeah, right.
Now it's just, yeah, you throw it out. Maybe if you find it out on the internet, yeah, it's great.
And it's not
Right.
just that, it is the camaraderie and the fellowship that you had with other music friends that you had. And the reason I put iRobot in here is a lot of us remember specifically when and where we were when we bought certain records.
Right.
My mom took my friend Dave and I to a record store. He bought something, I bought something. I remember it as if I could walk through a door right now. He dropped us off at his house, went into his room. He had a Gerard turntable, a Sansui receiver, and EPI speakers. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I got
So
2 of the
he
3.
bought iRobot.
Mhm.
I bought A Farewell to Kings.
Wow.
So we're going to have a sit down. And you explain this to someone like my kids or any of your kids or anything else. You're like, well, what did you do? We sat and listened to the record
Yeah.
all the way through.
Yeah.
They're like, are you out of your mind?
It was an
Yeah.
event.
And we were like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
we did iRobot first.
But they'll go and sit down and game for 3 hours in a
Well,
row.
I know. Well,
But
That's
they're
the
sitting
new
around
rock
with their
star.
phone.
You're lucky
That's
if
the
you get
new
away
rock
with just
star.
3. But
Yeah.
we went through iRobot and we were done. We were just like, wow, wow. Now, he was not a Rush fan. Of course, I was. And so we put on Farewell of the Kings. And of course, it is night and day different from what we last heard from Rush. There's acoustic guitar and the
That's a prog album right
glockenspiel and
there.
all this stuff. And he starts laughing at me. He goes, "This is awful." He goes, "This just sucks." And I was kind of going, he's right. What the hell happened to Rush? Well, and then kick in and then off they went. I go, ha ha ha. And he's like, oh, shit.
What do you
And
think
then
of
here's
Cygnus
Rush.
X1, Pete?
You know, which is, yeah. So I was like, okay. And he had what he loved and I loved what I loved. And we even used to get a third friend and we would do the stupidest game. We'd go, oh, time to drop the needle. 2 of us would be like contestants and they'd pick an album. He'd just drop the needle and he'd pick it back up. He goes, what did I just play? And we did it all the time.
Right.
It just is, we were just trying to absorb as much as we possibly could absorb. We weren't distracted by other stuff. TV sucked. Unless
Right.
you were a sports guy and watched the Cubs, okay. But
Well,
you
you're a
didn't
young
watch
kid. It's
anything
different.
else.
Everything's fresh and new.
You didn't have
taking
computers,
everything
you didn't
in.
have distractions. You had time to sit and listen. And that art is way gone.
Right.
That is a
Hey,
But
can
we
I-
look at
Yeah,
it and we think that was like art. That is way gone. But this younger generation doesn't know any different. They look at what they do as the norm. My
Right.
mom, okay, my wife used to tell my kids or tell my son, because he's a big gamer. You know, that's my fault. I pushed him into it. I thought that would help him, whatever. But
Right.
my wife would go, Griffin, you need to go outside and play. And he's
Right.
going, why? All my friends are online. We're playing right
Right.
now.
right.
It's a different
Right.
world.
That's his fellowship. It's
Right.
anonymous
Yeah.
and it's not interactive in a sense
Well,
of
it
human
is.
connectivity
The way he looks at it. So
as the way they see it.
Right.
That is their connection.
we're looking
Hey,
at this
guys.
from an ancient kind of. Go ahead. What, Rand?
I'm just sorry. I was going to ask if I could showcase the albums that I wanted to talk about real quick
Yeah.
and
Well, please do.
Before I-
Absolutely.
before I fall asleep because I'm 70 and
Oh my
Okay.
God, you're throwing out that 70 thing again.
I got to
For
stop
God's
playing the
sake.
H card. I don't know why I do that.
I want to see
But what
you
I'm
got.
saying is
Yeah.
that the younger generation doesn't look at it like we look at it.
And
Okay,
Byron, I
guys.
want to see what you got too.
I'm gonna switch the railroad track a little bit to the right and talk about, I think, bands that should have been absolutely huge, but because of Clear Channel and closed-minded record execs or whatever, they weren't allowed to be on the radio. Okay, the first band, I'm gonna go in chronological order.
All
so it has
right,
nothing
let's
to do
see
with-
it.
Has nothing to do with preference because I love all this stuff. Okay, my first band, I'm gonna drop it down in.
Wow, look at that. He's dropping it down from the ceiling.
Can you see that?
Sky.
going.
Crack the
Crack the
sky.
sky.
Crack the sky.
Right.
And I'm doing debut albums, by the way,
Okay.
just because like the beginning of their career. This album is a masterpiece. You start out this good. This is amazing. I mean, I put this up with anything by anybody. This is a
What
great
year?
album.
What year is that?
1975.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
And John
And-
Palumbo is the main writer of this and the lead singer, and he's a genius. That it's absolutely perfect, and then radio wouldn't go near it. You know what I mean? So that's one. Crack the Sky, love them, still going to this day. This album never got radio airplay. I never heard anything by this on this debut album on radio. Every song on here is a corker.
And you know-
There's nothing
You know
wrong
why?
with this.
Because that wasn't their most successful album. Worlds Apart
Oh,
was
I
their most
know.
successful.
I
They
know, but
played
They
the
they
got
hell
don't
out
plenty
play
of
that
airplay
either.
on
Hey,
that.
Ernesto, they played the hell out of that back in the
Let
day.
me tell you
They
something.
don't play it now.
No.
Yeah.
I saw 3 songs on MTV for Saga.
Saga is my absolute, other than Stars, and Grant knows this. Saga is so criminally overlooked.
Right.
It's
I know.
it makes my head explode.
I know. How long
Humble
is a great
Stance.
opener, but Humble Stance should have been a radio hit.
Is it because they're Canadian?
No, I don't think
No.
so. I think it's because
That's what it is.
I
That's
don't
what
really
it
know.
is.
I really don't know if no, because there's been a lot of Canadian bands that did well. Rush,
And they
Rush.
just got better.
Guess
and better
who?
and
Right.
better.
well, Max Webster never got played on the radio.
Well, Max
Not in-
Webster
not
would
here.
never get played down here.
I
Not
They
love
did
it.
play. What's the song they did with Rush? Help me,
Battle
Byron.
Scar.
Battle Scar.
Battle Scar got played on the radio in 1980, 81, and it
Barely.
trickled down, and eventually you never heard it again.
They only played Go for a Soda.
Kim
They
Mitchell.
barely played that here, but all that's
Isn't
forgotten.
that a solo Kim Mitchell?
It's
soda?
Kim Mitchell song.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
I'm sorry.
catchy. It's
I said
much
Mitchell
more
soda.
accessible. Go for a Soda is much more accessible than anything that Max Webster ever did.
I think A Million Vacations. I started with A Million
No.
Vacations. I didn't know anything about
Too
the band.
weird.
I
too
liked
weird.
the album cover and I bought it.
Yeah, but
Universal
Rand, you live on another
Juveniles,
planet.
Checker.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
but
here's my
Saga-
next one, guys.
Saga
Here's my
should have
next
been
one.
bigger.
We're in the year 1979 now. Oh, wait. Hang on. 1978. Another
Is that?
Oh.
Is that? Oh, 19. Yeah,
19.
that
1994. This album should have been huge. This is as
Right.
good as any hard album ever, I think. I love this record.
What year did
Didn't-
that come out of?
1978.
78. Didn't
Karen Lawrence is
Aaron
absolutely
Lawrence. Jeff Beck.
Yeah, that's right. Back on the street.
Wow.
didn't that come out on Rock Candy? Didn't they put that out on CD?
Yeah, I bought it. Yeah. And dial up 1994 with a colon after it and put in Sing to Me and listen to that song. It's produced by Jack Douglas, the whole album. Excellent. Just excellent tune. Why didn't that get on the radio? I have no clue.
How do we
All right.
not know that, Grant? Did you know that one?
I was aware of it. I've never heard it before, but I knew it was out on Rock Candy. I knew that it was re-released, but I have not heard it.
Here's another one. Who knows this?
New
Oh.
England. Paul
Yeah, New
Stanley
England.
produced that.
Yeah, this is a masterpiece. I mean, God, just this band is so freaking good.
Where are they
Hirsch
from?
Gardner on drums, John Fannin on guitar, Jimmy Waldo on
They
They
keyboards.
became
Eric Shea on
Alcatraz
bass.
kids.
They
Oh,
became
okay.
Alcatraz. Yeah, but every song on here is awesome. This is a absolute perfect 10 album for me. Couldn't get on the radio except for one song called Don't Ever Want to Lose You, and they only played it for about a month.
Wow.
God, I love that band. The next one is an album that I actually gave Mike Patton to listen to for a week. This is
It bites.
I don't
It
know
Bites,
that record
the
at
Big
all.
Lad and the Windmill. This is a masterpiece. It came out of nowhere. It's on Geffen Records, Virgin in England. This is the Virgin copy, but the Geffen copy is a different running order on the tracks. Of course, they do. But yeah, this is a great guy's name's Francis Dunnery.
Oh, Francis Dunnery. I've heard of Francis
a-
Dunnery. Yeah.
Guy's a genius. He can play. I mean, this sounds like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like sweet with Alan Haldsworth guitar solos.
What year is that?
1986.
Oh,
Byron,
okay.
you've got this in your collection.
So this came out. This came out, and I didn't.
No.
I didn't know anything about it. I used to buy
I've heard of it.
Kerrang! Magazine.
You've heard of it. Okay.
I've heard
Yeah.
people talk about them.
It's a great album.
King's X.
Oh,
Absolutely. Out of the
But
sun,
back in the day,
moon,
they used to play
Played
something.
other stuff.
They played other stuff off of
Yeah.
King's X.
the second album they would play Over My Head. But
Right.
that
No,
was it.
not that one.
Nothing off the third album, and
No,
nothing
I heard
off of
stuff off the-
Dogman.
Off the third
saw-
album.
I heard stuff off every album except for the first album up to.
Oh, I didn't mean the
Dog
third. I
Man.
meant fourth. I meant the fourth album.
Fourth album they
But
played. and
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Dog
It's
Man
Love
got
Got
on
Me
there
Today.
for-
I'm gonna have to
It's
look it
Love
up, but
Got
I'll tell you what they used to
Played.
play all the time.
Love got
We
played.
used to do a cover of Over My Head
Yeah.
Great.
Music,
Off of Faith,
music.
Hope, and Love. They
Yeah,
would
that's
play
great album.
It's
Love.
Love, which is
Yeah.
the best song they ever did. As far as I'm
That's Ty Tabor sounding like John Lennon.
Yeah. It
In
was
my
the best
head.
song they ever did. You can quote me on that.
Byron.
Byron.
I was just going to show some albums that I liked back in
Well,
those
show
days,
some
but,
albums.
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
they're real popular artists. So,
Well,
there's no
what?
big
That's the
deal.
point.
I mean, it was just stuff that when I was like high school, this is when someone says AOR, this is what pops into my head first thing.
Right.
Certain albums, you know, like, well, that was a rare one there. Like, we didn't have that till later, and it was another cover. But I mean, you know, we mentioned this already, High Infidelity.
Absolutely.
Classic.
That's AOR right there.
Grant, stop stepping on his toes. Put him down.
First Boston album, you know.
All right.
I'm
Oh
trying
my
to
God.
impress Rand.
Love that Boston album.
Boston probably played they played Boston so much on the radio.
Yeah, that gets a lot of
Great.
their
I saw them on this tour, and my very first concert was this tour,
Oh,
Yep.
there you go.
and then my second concert was this. So
Oh, wow.
I saw. Where did you see Sticks on the Cornerstone tour? Where
in Omaha,
I saw
it was
him
April
in.
Wine opening.
I
Oh,
saw him
wow.
in Athens, Ohio, at OU, Ohio University.
Opened. Did April Wine open? on that
No,
tour?
April Wine did not open. It was band out of Cleveland. It was oh shit. Michael Stanley Band.
I got one of their albums laying around here somewhere.
It's a Cleveland band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had a friend that loved Michael Stanley Band because he was from Cleveland, and he talked to me about the Agora Theater, and he said that's where the Crack the Sky album was, Live Sky was recorded.
Right. That's right. A lot of great albums were recorded at the Agora in Cleveland.
That first concert was my first concert was that Foreigner show on the Head Games. That was Bram Tchaikovsky opening, which never really ever listened to them before or since,
Right.
really.
Me neither.
But how many?
Sounded fun to me.
Martin Popoff
Here's-
likes Bram Tchaikovsky.
Well,
I'll have to
here's the
check.
thing, Byron. How many FM stations now are left where you live?
There never was a bunch. I mean, there's really only 2 or 3 that I would even think about listening to. One plays like modern rock, but they still
Right.
play like your Guns N' Roses and stuff like that too for the old stuff, you know. And then
Right.
there's a classic rock channel which, you know, just plays your 70s and 80s, maybe a little 90s now, but
Mhm.
that's really about it. You know, maybe there might be a third, but I don't really listen to any radio anymore. None.
Not even in
No,
your
no.
car?
No, I've got a USB drive full of
Yeah.
stuff that I
Oh.
listen to in the car.
Right,
I
right.
listen- I listen to Amazon Music or Spotify.
Oh, okay. Peter,
Just
do
because
you
I don't
listen
want to carry,
Spotify?
well, my
Ah.
wife's car hasn't got a player, so there's no reason to carry discs, because there's nowhere to play them. So
Right,
if
right.
I want to listen to music, we on a long trip, we just put the phone down on the thing and picks it right up through the
Yeah,
Bluetooth.
Bluetooth. Yeah.
Bluetooth,
Right,
and just pick any. My playlist is so big on Amazon, it frightens you.
I'm afraid right now.
right.
Before I got XM on our new car up here in North Dakota, I only had 2 things, really only one that I went to. I listened to classical NPR, and that was it. I
Wow.
put on classical music, and it's perfect for me when I'm in the car. It's quiet. I listen as a musician. And I'm tired of the radio hacking, and I got burned out when I lived in Chicago on sports talk radio. That just soured me for the rest of my life on sports talk.
Did that for-
But like I said, on XM, I mentioned the channels that I had before, but I'll dig into a Motown or an R&B, and I'll supplement the Sinatra and the real jazz and Elvis. And of all of the decades, I listen to 60s on 6 more than I do anything.
Really?
Because those
Hey,
are
I've
just,
got an announcement. It just popped down. I get things that pop down, you know. Rob
Right.
Squad Reactions just said that they're listening to "She's a Beauty" by the Tubes. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
Of course.
Right.
Well, of course,
here-
it's a great song.
Here's the question.
But they've never
Here's
heard
the
it.
question.
Hmm.
AOR,
Mm-hmm.
is it dead or is it alive? What do you think?
It's dead.
Oh, it's dead in the door now.
Really?
Dead.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Well, it's not only the radio, but the rock too. The album-oriented rock.
So you think
That's
like
not
bands,
even happening either.
so bands like Journey that are still trying to continue, you think that's
Yeah,
it
but-
for them?
nobody wants to hear their new stuff is the problem. People
Right.
still want to hear
Right.
the old stuff.
And if you
That's
go to a
right.
Journey
You can't
show,
hear
all you're
Arnel
gonna
Pineda. You can't hear our Arnel Pineda on FM radio here. It's always Steve Perry.
Right.
They won't even play the first 3 albums.
well, they
Right.
don't care
Wow.
about that stuff.
I
The
love
thing
those
is,
does anybody have a Foreigner record that doesn't
Yeah.
have Lou Gramm as the singer? No.
Right.
I only have the first 2.
no,
Ellie
I've got
Hanson's the
everything with
great
Lou
singer
Gramm on
live,
it.
and he's doing a great job live for what you need him to do for them to keep going. It's not for me to tell them they should stop, but
They stopped.
he's never recorded anything with them.
I was
Right.
gonna say, did they ever put out any new music?
No.
They're a
since,
cover band. They're
no.
a cover band.
Yeah. Cover
Agent
band.
No.
Provocateur was the last one, wasn't it?
They are
The
living.
last group. No, I think. Okay, Agent Provocateur. Lou left after that to do a solo career, but I do believe. No, I
back.
don't think Lou ever did another Foreigner album.
They did Inside Information.
It did Inside
No, he
that's right.
didn't.
He
That's
did
not
Information.
Lou.
Well, he did
Yes.
Ready or Not, and then jumped right back to Foreigner,
Right,
and that was the last one.
right. Inside Information. Then he went
That's
back
correct.
to another solo.
Oh,
album.
Inside Information's the last one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
they did the
But he
one
did
album
Ready or
without it.
Not before that, which is a better Foreigner album than he was doing with Foreigner.
Exactly.
Well, that's
Does
what I was
anybody-
gonna say is Mick Jones, he doesn't really compose music anymore. I don't think, does he?
Why should he?
Why
Aren't they
should he?
just
No one
resting on their
cares.
laurels?
You've heard
interviews.
You've heard interviews with Paul Stanley. They always ask him, "You guys going to put out another Kiss album?" He says, "No, we're done. No one
Yeah.
cares about the new material. We'll just go out
Well, I
and
was
play the
never a
old
Kiss
stuff." It doesn't matter, but he's got a
And
good
this is the-
point because
but
no
this
one
is-
cares.
This is the dumbing down of the audience, and that's why this is important. And I will put it
Right.
into a classical medium. How many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of compositions did Beethoven do? And if you will go across the symphonies across the world, all the best symphonies, the number of Beethoven tracks they will play, you can fill up on one hand.
The
It's the
ninth,
same
the fifth,
symphonies, the third, the fifth,
third,
the ninth,
yeah. Erotica.
maybe a concerto for a soloist or something, but that's it.
Right.
They can't deviate outside of that. They can't bring in
Yeah.
a new classical piece for a composer because they'll lose all their sponsorship, they'll lose their ticket sales, and then the orchestras fold because they don't have any money.
Well, my favorite is Stravinsky.
The orchestras are a perfect example of what this corporate radio mentality has done. Now, the classical listener will go home and listen to an enormous breadth of catalogs. They'll listen
Yeah.
to Beethoven like crazy, but not live.
Right.
It's
It's
different.
the
Yeah.
same thing with the pop bands or the classic rock
Exactly.
bands. Same thing.
Exactly. Paul Stanley says it all the time. He says, well, you want to do another record? He goes, why? If I play it, you'll yell at me because I
Yeah,
had to
they were
take
asking,
stuff
"Do you
out."
are you still writing songs?" He goes, "No, there's no
No.
reason to write any."
No.
Does anybody listen to Cats in Space? Because to me, they are a current AOR band.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like them. Yeah, I like them.
They are
I don't
AOR.
own anything by them, but I've listened to them quite a little bit on
With a
what do you
C
call
or a
it? On
K.
Amazon.
See,
C,
Cats in
C, okay.
Space.
Yeah.
They're from England and they're really good. They
4 or
they
5
kind of
albums.
sound like Queen.
Yeah.
Right.
Vocals
They're,
are like
they're like
Queen.
all the 70s bands just mixed up in a blender.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of sound like a mixture of
Styx,
Foreigner and Boston
Foreigner,
and
yeah,
Styx.
all
Well,
and
what's the
Queen.
difference between that band and the Darkness? They're like the same kind of thing.
I've never even heard them.
Yeah,
don't
their
know what
their
Darkness
singer
sounds
annoyed the
like.
shit out of me when I listened to them. I couldn't see the singer.
I love
never
the
heard the
Darkness. Watch it, Byron. Watch it.
I hated their singer when I listened to it a little bit.
No, Justin's
You know
great.
what? Here's the thing. AOR is actually big in Europe. There's a lot of bands out there that are doing that style of music. You don't hear about them because if you don't follow those bands, you don't hear about them, but they're out there and they're
Mhm.
still playing music and they're playing it in the style that people like. And that's pretty cool.
Well, I think there's an interesting geographic tie-in that goes through, because we were talking the other day with somebody. I was talking to my friend Tyler when I was doing one of the Maiden episodes that I did with him. We were talking about during the World Slavery Tour, how they made a departure in the middle of the tour to go down and do the very first Rock in Rio, where they
Mhm.
did the second slot behind Queen in 84. So it was huge. They played a couple 100,000 people, but that introduction to them has ingratiated them in South America for the rest of their career. They
Right.
could ignore the rest of the planet, just play soccer stadiums in South America and make more money than they could ever know what to do with.
Right.
My point is that in South America, they are starved for music, albums. They want band material. It is, in a sense, their 70s.
Right.
Europe, in some sections, is maybe the 80s. We get to us, we're where we are. And everybody is trailing behind us around the planet. England is obviously right in there as well. But they have different thoughts, different mentalities. They didn't have radio stations to bludgeon themselves on songs. It's all new. And anything they can get their hands on, they want. And that's not us anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, that's the
Right.
beauty of the internet. They can get whatever they like now.
Yeah, but see,
Yeah,
I
but
think
for them, they want to own it. They want to touch it.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
buying albums, though. You can buy from
I'm saying in South
Discogs
America,
or-
the internet doesn't mean anything to them. A lot of them
No,
don't
but
have it anyways.
yeah.
No, but in South America, they don't have that much money. So physical media to buy it costs money. And you
Yeah.
know, it's
But they
not that
covet
easy
it.
to- Right.
They cherish it, and
Yeah.
they're trying to get it. And that you
Right.
see them when they see these bands, it's the biggest moment of their life. They're just like, it is so. And now a US audience, and I'm off the track here, just watch any of these produced concert films or watch anything. Fuck, Styx a while ago, they had a thing you watch on TV. Everybody in the front row was like, oh, yay, there's the hit. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Have you seen the audience?
And you know
in
what?
the
I'm wondering
Gentle
what I'm
Giant
having
video?
for dinner. You know, they're bored. They're just, it's
Have you
annoying.
seen- Have you seen the audience in the Gentle Giant video from Germany in 1974? They
No.
look catatonic. They don't even move.
It's a totally different, everything's
Right.
changed.
Yeah.
And
Right.
radio played a huge part of that. And it changed how we buy records. It changed how we
Yeah.
listen to records. And therefore, it has changed how artists produce and manufacture records.
I
So they're
think
all
I
tied
think
in.
more people are like us, where we're just ignoring radio. We already know that AOR died, and we don't care, and
Right.
we're just buying what we want.
Right.
And I think,
think
we
the-
actually take it as a badge of honor to discover or find
Absolutely.
to find something that was missed or overlooked and said, hey, something new. Look at this. Oh, I didn't know that band existed.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I love forums like this when someone says, hey, you know, have you ever heard this? And I go, oh, what
Right.
that is, go check it out.
Mhm.
You either like it or you don't, and that's a fair assessment, but
Right.
at least you got a shot.
Well, Grant bought New England on the spot. I mean, I didn't
Right.
expect him to do that.
Oh, I bought a lot of stuff on the spot
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Because
not
of
because
this-
of me.
because of doing these. Well, you're not the only one, Rand.
But, you
I know that, but
There's
I'm-
other
I'm-
stuff.
I'm proud that you did that.
But you know what it comes down to? It comes down to physical media. You got to have it in your
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're just looking at a screen and you're just like, oh.
But the
look at
younger
screen.
generation
That's it.
could give a crap.
That's why.
You know,
I'm not
want to-
saying
when you do a
all
show
the,
like that,
and I'm not saying all the kids think that way, but my kids, well,
you know, I like.
well, I
props, you
raised
know,
them better,
props
but
about
whatever.
maybe 89% think like that.
I think even higher.
It's
All right.
kind of it's a sad thing though, because here's the thing that nobody thinks about. When all these satellite radios disappear or something happens, guess what we're going to go back to? What do you
Cassettes.
think? Cassettes,
8-tracks,
albums.
right?
8-tracks, 8-tracks.
8-tracks. We're going to go back to physical media again.
Victrola.
Yeah, we're going to go back to all that stuff. And people are going to be like, they're not even going to miss satellite. I don't really think that people are going to miss satellite. You know, I mean, it all depends.
All right, boys, we're at 9:29. Shall we wrap this dog up? Ernesto,
Yeah.
I'm going to let you wrap up our tonight's discussion. What did you come away with?
Well, I learned a lot from everybody. That's number one.
All right.
And everybody had great opinions about everything. Very, very knowledgeable people here on this panel, very knowledgeable. And much respect to all you guys. And but when it all comes down to it, I think the whole thing about AOR is that it was a great time. The music was good, accessible, whether it's disposable or not, but it was accessible. You know, we had it in our hands.
Let's sign this dog off. Ernesto, Rand, Byron, Peter, thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
Ernesto to suggest this topic.
You go, Ernesto.
It's been
Great
a great
job.
discussion. Look, we've talked for an hour and a half. Holy mackerel.
Hey, I just want to say thanks for everybody. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a
Ernesto.
lot of
Good
fun.
job.
Good night, everybody. And we'll see you on
Good
the
night,
next one.
Pete. Good night.